Lady Seraphine Velcora stood before the tall windows of her family estate and watched the crystal spires of her homeworld catch the morning light. She had been born in this palace, raised among its elegant halls, and trained in the ancient arts of Volante diplomacy since she could walk. Now she was leaving it all behind. Message had arrived 3 days ago. Bearing the seal of the High Council itself, she had been selected as a treaty bride. The war between her people and the Terran Republic had lasted only 8 months. But those months had shattered centuries of Volante confidence. The humans had come from nowhere, a species barely 1,000 years into space travel, and they had fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They did not surrender when outnumbered. They did not retreat when wounded. They simply kept coming, adapting, learning, until the proud Volante fleets had been pushed back to their own borders. Peace was necessary, and peace required sacrifice. Seraphine was that sacrifice. Her father, High Counselor Theron Velcora, entered her chambers without knocking. He was tall even by Volante standards, his silver skin unmarked by age, his violet eyes carrying the weight of political calculations she could only guess at. "You understand the importance of this arrangement," he said. "It was not a question. I understand that you volunteered." "Me without asking," Seraphine replied, keeping her voice steady. "I volunteered the family's third daughter for the good of our people." Theron corrected her. "You should be honored. Honored to marry a human," she said, letting the word carry all her disgust. "A barely evolved predator from a death world." Her father's expression did not change. "The humans are more dangerous than we anticipated," he admitted. "This peace must hold, and it requires bridges between our peoples. So I am to be a bridge. You are to be whatever this alliance needs you to be." He left without another word, and Seraphine turned back to the window. She had seen images of humans during the war, stocky creatures with strange, soft skin in various shades of brown and pink. They had small eyes and blunt teeth and bodies that seemed designed for nothing but endurance. The Volante were tall and graceful, with silver skin that shimmered in starlight and psychic gifts that had guided their civilization for 10,000 years. How could she share her life with something so primitive? 2 weeks later, Seraphine arrived at Neutral Station 7, a massive diplomatic hub floating in the space between empires. Her attendants had dressed her in traditional bonding robes, deep blue fabric that flowed like water. Around her slender frame, she walked through gleaming corridors toward the ceremonial chamber, where she would meet her future husband. She expected a brute. She expected scars and hard eyes and the barely contained violence her people whispered about. Instead, she found a man standing alone by a window, watching the stars. He turned when she entered, and she stopped in confusion. He was shorter than her by nearly a head, with black hair and warm brown eyes and skin the color of earth after rain. He wore a simple dark suit rather than military dress, and his hands were folded peacefully before him when he smiled. It reached his eyes. "Lady Seraphine," he said, and his voice was soft and careful with her language. "I am Park Junwoo, and I am honored to meet you." He bowed in the Volante style, low and respectful, and she found herself returning the gesture automatically. "You speak our language," she said. Surprised, "I have been studying for 3 months," he replied. "I wanted to greet you properly." The ceremony was brief and formal, conducted by officials from both governments who seemed eager to complete the paperwork and leave. Seraphine spoke the required words. Junwoo did the same, and just like that, she was married to a human. They were given quarters on the station, while their permanent assignment was arranged. Seraphine kept to her rooms, but she could not help noticing things about her new husband. He rose early each morning and tended to small plants he had brought from Earth. Green growing things he kept on their shared balcony. He cooked meals in the human style and left portions for her with small notes explaining what each dish contained. He never pushed her to speak with him. He never demanded anything. On the fifth day, she emerged to find him reading by the window, and she sat across from him without speaking. They stayed that way for an hour, sharing silence, and somehow it was not uncomfortable. "Why did you agree to this?" she finally asked. He looked up from his book with those gentle eyes. "Because someone needed to," he said simply. "Peace requires people willing to build it, even if it means marrying a stranger from a species that thinks you are a monster." His smile was sad, but not bitter. "I have been called worse things," he said, "and I hope that in time you will see that I'm just a man." That night, Seraphine noticed something strange. Junwoo slept lightly, always facing the door, and he woke at the smallest sound. His hands, when she looked closely, bore old scars across the knuckles and palms. He never spoke of his past, but sometimes she caught him staring at nothing. Lost in memories, he would not share a message. Arrived on their 10th day together. They were being assigned to Haren's Rest, a small colony at the edge of Volanti space. It was technically an honor, a posting for ambassadors meant to showcase cooperation between their peoples, but Seraphine recognized her father's hand in this assignment. It was exile dressed in diplomatic language, a way to remove her from the homeworld while still serving the alien. See Junwoo read the message and nodded calmly. "A farming colony," he said. "That sounds peaceful." Seraphine watched him and wondered what this quiet man was hiding behind his gentle smile. She had married him for political necessity. She had expected to endure him at best, but as their transport prepared to depart for their new home, she found herself curious about the human who tended plants and cooked breakfast and slept like a soldier waiting for war. What had he been before he became a diplomat? And why did the thought of discovering the answer make her more nervous than the marriage itself? Haren's Rest was nothing like the crystal cities of the Volanti homeworld. The colony spread across rolling green hills beneath a pale yellow sky, with simple buildings made of local stone and imported metal farms stretched toward distant mountains. And the air smelled of growing things and honest work. Seraphine had expected to hate it. Instead, she found a strange kind of peace in its simplicity. Their home was a modest structure near the colony's administrative center, with a garden that Junwoo immediately claimed as his own within weeks. He had planted vegetables from earth alongside Volanti flowering vines, creating something new from both their worlds. She watched him work the soil with his bare hands, and she did not understand him at all. "You were a diplomat before this," she said one afternoon. "Surely you had servants to do such work." Junwoo wiped dirt from his fingers and smiled. "I was many things before I was a diplomat," he replied. "And I have learned that working with your hands helps quiet a busy mind." He did not explain further, and she did not ask. Months passed, and Seraphine found her days filling with purpose. The colony had tensions that needed managing. Old resentments between Volanti settlers and human workers that flared into arguments and accusations. She used her training to mediate disputes, to find compromises, to remind everyone that they shared this world. Now Junwoo worked differently. When a Volanti farmer complained about human neighbors, Junwoo did not negotiate. He simply appeared at the farm the next morning and helped repair a broken irrigation system when human workers felt excluded from colony decisions. He sat with them in the evenings and listened to their concerns. He remembered everyone's names, asked about their families and their hopes. He fixed their problems with his own hands. Seraphine had been trained to solve conflicts through words and careful manipulation. June solved them by being present, by caring, by showing up again and again until distrust melted into acceptance. "You confuse me," she told him one night as they shared dinner. "How so?" "My people spent 8 months fighting yours," she said. "We saw humans as dangerous, violent, Unpredictable. We can be all those things. Junwoo agreed. But you are none of them. She continued. You garden and cook and play games with children in the square. He set down his utensils and looked at her with those warm brown eyes. Humans contain multitudes, he said carefully. We can be gentle and we can be terrible, sometimes in the same breath. And which are you? The question hung between them. Junwoo was quiet for a long moment. I have been both, he finally said. I spent many years being terrible because my government asked it of me. And then I chose to be something different. What changed? I got tired of destruction, he said simply. I wanted to build things instead. She wanted to ask more. But something in his expression told her the conversation was over. Spring arrived on Haren's Rest. And with it came a festival celebrating the colony's founding. Volanti and humans gathered in the central square. Sharing food and music from both cultures, children ran between the adults, playing games that mixed traditions in ways that made Seraphine smile. She found Junwoo teaching a group of young Volanti a human game involving a ball and running, and she watched him laugh as they struggled with the rules, was patient with their mistakes. He cheered their small victories. He looked, in that moment, completely happy. Later, as the twin suns set and colored the sky in shades of orange and purple, they walked together through the quieting streets. Can I ask you something? Seraphine said, always. Why did you really accept this marriage? He considered the question as they walked. Because peace needs people willing to become bridges, he said. Even if bridges get walked on. That sounds like something from a human philosophy text. It is something my mother told me, he replied, before she died. She said that the strongest people are those who let others lean on them. Seraphine stopped walking. I have not been fair to you, she admitted. I expected you to be a monster, and I have treated you with suspicion for months. Junwoo turned to face her. You were given no choice in this marriage, he said gently. Neither of us was, but at least I knew what I was accepting. While you were told to bond yourself to an alien species, you had been taught to fear. You are not what I feared. I am glad, he said. And his smile was genuine. They stood together in the fading light. And something shifted between them. Not love, not yet, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. That night, Seraphine dreamed of crystal spires and human soldiers, of war and peace, of a quiet man with scarred hands who planted gardens in foreign soil. She woke to the sound of alarms. Junwoo was already at the window, staring at the sky, and his expression had changed into something she had never seen before. What is happening? She demanded. Ships, he said, and his voice had lost all its gentleness. Unknown configuration. Entering the system, Seraphine moved to stand beside him, far above. She could see lights descending through the atmosphere. Too many to count. The colony's communication system crackled to life, and a harsh alien voice spoke in broken common tongue. This is Commander Vrek of the Kreth Syndicate, the voice announced. You will prepare tribute, supplies, and slaves, or you will be destroyed. Pirates. The colony had no military garrison, no defensive weapons. Nothing but farmers and teachers and diplomats, and the nearest help was days away. Seraphine looked at her husband and saw that the gentle gardener had vanished. In his place stood someone else entirely. Someone with cold eyes and absolute stillness. Junwoo, she whispered. What do we do? He did not answer immediately when he turned to her. She saw a stranger wearing her husband's face. I need you to get everyone underground, he said. Every person in this colony into the emergency shelters. And what will you do? The man who had laughed with children that afternoon looked at her with eyes that held no warmth at all. I am going to buy us 3 days, he said. Seraphine followed Junwoo through the colony as he moved with purpose she had never seen from him before. He walked into the supply depot and began gathering items that seemed unrelated to each other. Fuel canisters, Mining charges, agricultural chemicals, lengths of wire, he examined each item with expert hands, sorting and selecting with terrifying efficiency. "Explain this to me," Seraphine demanded. "You cannot fight an entire pirate fleet alone." "I do not need to fight their fleet," Junmu replied without looking up. "I need to fight the ground forces they send, and I need to make them regret landing here." "You are a diplomat. I am now," he agreed. "But before that, I was something else." He finally met her eyes, and she saw the truth she had been sensing for months. The scars on his hands, the light sleeping, the way he always faced the door. "What were you?" she asked, though part of her did not want to know. "I was a soldier," he said. "Terran Special Operations for 12 years. The war against my people, and others before that," he confirmed. "I have been fighting since I was old enough to hold a weapon, and I only stopped when I could not bear it anymore." "Then why did they send you here as a diplomat?" Junwoo smiled, but it was a bitter expression. "Because they hoped I would stay retired," he said. "And because even diplomats need protection sometimes." He moved to the colony's communication hub and began typing commands into the system. "I am sending a distress signal," he explained. "But the nearest military response is 70 hours away." 3 days. 3 days, he confirmed. "Which means I need to keep those pirates occupied until help arrives." "One man against how many?" "Their ships suggest 40 to 60 ground troops," he said. "Perhaps more. That is impossible." Junwoo finished his work and turned to face her fully. "At Sigma Outpost," he said quietly, "I held a position alone for 11 days against a force of 200. Seraphine felt cold spread through her chest. "How?" she whispered. "Because humans do not stop," he said. "We do not know how to stop, and when someone we care about is in danger, we become something that other species cannot comprehend." He shouldered a pack filled with his gathered supplies and checked something at his HIPAA weapon. She realized, hidden beneath his jacket this entire time. "Get everyone underground," he said again. "The shelters are reinforced against orbital bombardment, so they will be safe there. And what about you?" "I will give them something else to worry about." He started toward the door, and Seraphine grabbed his arm. "You will die," she said. Junwoo looked at her hand on his sleeve, then at her face. Something softened in his expression. "Just for a moment, perhaps," he admitted. "But if I do nothing, everyone dies, and I cannot allow that." "Why?" she demanded. "These are not your people. This is not even your world. They are my people now," he said. "You are my people now, and I protect what is mine." He gently removed her hand from his arm. "There is a secondary shelter beneath the school," he said. "I have hidden 3 children there because the main shelters were too crowded. I will get them." "No," he said firmly. "The pirates will search the obvious buildings first, and the school is not obvious. So leave them there until it is safe to move." "But what if they are found?" "They will not be found," he said. "I will make certain of it." He walked out into the growing darkness, and Seraphine watched him go. The gentle gardener had vanished completely, replaced by something that moved like a predator and held itself with lethal grace. She had thought she understood humans. She had thought she understood her husband. She had understood nothing. The evacuation took hours, and Seraphine worked without rest. She gathered colonists, calmed frightened children, organized supplies, and guided everyone toward the underground shelters. Some Volanti settlers demanded to know what was happening. Some humans wanted to fight. She told them all the same thing. Get underground. Stay quiet. Wait for help by the time the sun rose. The colony streets were empty. The pirates would find nothing but abandoned buildings and silence from the shelter's monitoring station. Seraphine watched the Kreth ships descend. They were ugly vessels, all sharp angles and weapons ports, built for intimidation rather than elegance. They landed in a field outside the colony and disgorged their troops. She counted 53 raiders, massive reptilian creatures with thick scales and brutal weapons. Their commander, a scarred giant nearly 3 meters tall, strode toward the colony with obvious contempt. "Come out, little colonists," he broadcast over a stolen communication frequency. "Make this easy and only half of you will be sold." No one answered. The raiders spread through the empty streets, breaking into buildings, searching for prey that was not there. Seraphine watched them grow frustrated, watched them argue among themselves. Then the first explosion ripped through the night. A storage building near the eastern edge of the colony erupted in flame, and 3 raiders disappeared in the blast. Chaos erupted among the pirates. They fired their weapons at shadows, at empty windows, at nothing. A second explosion came. Then a third. Seraphine stared at the screen as she realized what was happening. Junwoo was not hiding. He was hunting through the colony's remaining cameras. She caught glimpses of him, a shadow moving between buildings, a figure appearing and disappearing before the raiders could react. He was using the colony's infrastructure as a weapon, turning their own supplies against them. The Kreth commander screamed orders. His troops formed defensive positions. They swept through buildings with weapons ready. It did not help. One by one, raiders began to fall. A sniper shot from an impossible angle, a tripwire connected to mining charges, a chemical mixture that burst into flames when exposed to air. By midnight, the pirates had lost 8 soldiers and had not seen their enemy once. The commander's voice came over the communication system again, and this time there was fear beneath the rage. "Who are you?" he demanded into the darkness. "Show yourself and face me." No answer came, only the sound of another explosion and another scream. Seraphine watched her husband wage war, and she finally understood why the Volanthi had lost. They had faced creatures who turned anything into a weapon. They had faced humans, and humans did not know how to stop. The first day ended with 15 dead raiders and a Kreth commander who had stopped. Laughing, Seraphine did not sleep. She remained at the monitoring station, watching through whatever cameras still functioned, tracking the war her husband waged alone. He was everywhere and nowhere, a ghost that struck without warning and vanished before retaliation could find him. She saw him set traps. Using nothing but wire and broken glass, she watched him create distractions that drew raiders into ambush positions. She observed him moving through shadows with a patience that seemed impossible for a creature born on a world of such chaos. The Kreth tried everything. They sent scouts in pairs, but the scouts did not return. They fortified positions, but explosions found them anyway. They searched building by building, but their prey was never where they looked. By dawn of the second day, their numbers had dropped to 31. Commander Vrek gathered his remaining soldiers in the colony square and broadcast a message. "I know you can hear me, human," he snarled. "You are one creature against my warriors, and you cannot win." The response came as a shot that struck the ground centimeters from his feet. The Kreth scattered, firing wildly, hitting nothing. Seraphine found herself laughing despite her terror. Her quiet husband, the man who grew vegetables and remembered everyone's names, had turned an entire pirate force into frightened prey. She wondered what else she had failed to understand about humans. Throughout the second day, the pattern continued. Junwoo did not fight like Volanthi warriors who prized grace and honor. He did not fight like Kreth raiders who relied on overwhelming force. He fought like something from a nightmare. Using the environment itself as his weapon, he collapsed a building entrance while raiders searched inside. He poisoned a water supply the pirates had claimed. He used mirrors and lights to create phantom movements that drew enemy fire. The Kreth began to break. She heard them on the captured communication frequencies, arguing with each other, demanding retreat, accusing their commander of leading them into a trap. Some tried to return to their ships, but they found the landing field transformed into a maze of tripwires and buried. Charges, 3 more died before they retreated back to the colony. He moves like a falling star, one raider screamed into his communicator. You cannot track him, you cannot predict him. He is everywhere at once. The name spread among the surviving pirates they stopped using. Junwoo's description, they started calling him the falling star 24 hours until help arrived. Sarafini allowed herself to hope, and the cameras caught something that stopped her heart. Junwoo, moving between buildings, stumbled. He caught himself against a wall, and even through the grainy footage, she could see he was hurt. Blood darkened his side, and his movements had lost their fluid grace. He had been fighting for nearly 2 days without rest. Even human endurance had limits. She watched him pause, press his hand against his wound, and then keep moving. He did not stop. He did not seek shelter. He simply adjusted his strategy, moving more carefully, choosing his engagements with greater precision. The raider sensed weakness. Commander Vrek organized a coordinated sweep, dividing his remaining 22 soldiers into teams that would systematically clear every structure for the first time. Junwoo was forced to retreat. He pulled back from the colony center, drawing the pirates after him into the outlying farms and storage facilities. Even wounded, even exhausted, he made them pay for every meter. But the math had changed. She could see it in the way he moved. In the longer pauses between actions, he was slowing down. And the Kreth were adapting 18 hours until Rescue Seraphine made a decision. She left the monitoring station and found the colony's remaining medical supplies. She stuffed them into a bag along with food and water. What are you doing? Demanded Counselor Sirith, a Volanthi elder who had been managing the shelter. My husband is dying out there, she said. He's buying us time, Sirith replied. If you leave, you will be captured or killed. Then I will be captured or killed. She walked toward the shelter exit. You barely know him, Sirith called after her. This marriage was arranged. There is no bond between you. Seraphine stopped at the door and turned back. He has spent 2 days bleeding for people he does not know, she said. He could have hidden with us, could have waited for rescue like everyone else. But instead he walked out alone to face 50 armed raiders, because he is a soldier. No, she said, because he is a bridge. And bridges hold weight so others can cross safely. She opened the door and stepped out into the night. The colony was a ruin of burning buildings and scattered debris. She moved carefully, using her psychic sensitivity to detect nearby mines. The Kreth were searching the northern sector, their thoughts broadcasting fear, and ragged Junwoo was somewhere to the west, alone. His mental presence dim with exhaustion. She found him in an abandoned storage building. Slumped against the wall, his side was wrapped in torn fabric. Already soaked through with blood, his weapon lay across his lap, and his eyes were closed for a terrible moment. She thought he was dead. Then his eyes opened, and he raised the weapon with shaking hands. Seraphine? His voice was barely a whisper. I brought medical supplies, she said. Kneeling beside him, you should have stayed underground. You should have told me you were dying. She unwrapped his makeshift bandage and found a wound that made her breath catch deep and ragged. Probably from shrapnel, and had been bleeding for hours. Why did you not treat this? She demanded. No time, he said. Had to keep them moving. Keep them afraid. She cleaned the wound as best she could and applied the medical patches she had brought. He did not make a sound, but his jaw tightened with pain. 16 hours, she told him. Can you hold on that long? He was quiet for a moment. There is a problem, he finally said. Her hands stopped moving. What problem? The school, he said, where I hid the children. Cold dread filled her chest. What about it? I have been drawing the raiders away from that area, he said. But they are getting desperate. They are searching everywhere now. He met her eyes, and she saw exhaustion and fear and something that looked like grief. I cannot protect them and continue fighting, he admitted. I am too slow now, too visible. Seraphine finished bandaging his wound and sat back. Then, what do we do? Junwoo was silent for a long moment when he spoke again. His voice was steady despite his weakness. I am going to surrender, he said. What? If I give myself up, the commander will focus on me, he explained. He wants revenge for his soldiers. He wants to make an example, and while he is dealing with me, the children stay hidden. He will kill you, probably. There has to be another way. Junwoo reached out and took her hand. His grip was weak, but his eyes held the same gentle warmth she remembered from their first meeting. Some bridges exist to be burned, he said, so that the people they protect can escape. Before she could argue, a Kreth voice echoed through the colony. Human. Commander Vrek bellowed, I have found something interesting. Junwoo closed his eyes. No, he whispered. The commander's voice continued, dripping with cruel satisfaction. 3 little Velanti children, hiding in a school like frightened animals, he laughed. And the sound carried across the ruins. Come face me, falling star, or I will kill them one by one. Junwoo stood despite his wounds, despite the blood loss. Despite every signal his body sent screaming for rest. Seraphine grabbed his arm, but he gently removed her grip. Stay hidden, he said. No. Seraphine. I said no. She stood to face him, and for the first time since their marriage, she did not look away from his eyes. You have spent 2 days protecting people you barely know, she said. You have bled for a colony that is not yours. Fought for Velanti, who would have called you a monster. They are my people now. Then so are you mine, she replied. And I will not hide while my husband walks to his death. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, perhaps? Or wonder. He had not expected this. You married me for politics, he said quietly. I married you because I was told to, she corrected him. But in the months since, I have watched you build something real in this place. And I have learned that I was wrong about humans. She took his hand. I was wrong about you. The Kreth commander's voice echoed again, demanding surrender. Junwoo looked toward the sound, then back at Seraphine. If we both go out there, we might both die. Then we die together, she said. But at least those children might live. He stared at her for a long moment, then, incredibly, he smiled. It was the same gentle smile she remembered from their first meeting. Warm and genuine despite everything. You are not what I expected either, he admitted. They walked out together into the central plaza. Commander Rex stood in the open ground with 7 remaining soldiers, his massive form silhouetted against the burning buildings behind him. 3 Velanti children knelt before him, their small bodies trembling with fear when the commander saw Junwoo. His scarred face twisted into a triumphant grin. The falling star, he mocked. You do not look so fearsome now. Junwoo stopped 10 meters away. He was pale from blood loss, swaying slightly on his feet, but his voice was steady. Release the children, he said. And you can have me, Vrek laughed. I already have you, he said. You can barely stand, and your weapon hangs useless at your side. His eyes moved to Seraphine. And who is this? He asked. Your Velanti bride. Yes, I heard about the treaty marriage. He gestured with a clawed hand. You married him for politics, Vrek said to Seraphine. Why would you die for him? Seraphine stepped forward, standing beside Junwoo. Because he taught me what a bridge does, she said. It holds weight so others can cross safely. The commander's expression flickered with confusion. Pretty words, he said. But words will not save you. He raised his weapon. Any last. Junwoo moved even wounded, even exhausted. He was faster than seemed possible. His hand flashed to his belt and came up holding something small and metallic. He threw it not at the commander, but at the ground between Vrek and the children. The Flash grenade exploded in a burst of blinding light. Seraphine felt Junwoo's hand shove her sideways. As he lunged forward, she stumbled, caught herself, and reached for the only weapon she had. Her psychic gift was weak by Volanti standards, barely strong enough to move small objects or sense nearby minds. But she had been trained to use what she had. She focused every fragment of her ability into a single purpose: the children. She formed a barrier around them, thin and fragile, but enough to deflect the wild shots the blinded raiders fired. Through the chaos, she saw Junwoo had crashed into the commander with his entire body weight, knocking the massive Kreth backward. They fought in a tangle of limbs in desperation. Junwoo was smaller, weaker, wounded, but he did not stop. He never stopped. The other raiders recovered from the flash, raising their weapons toward the struggling pair. Seraphine screamed and threw her barrier outward, pushing two of them off balance. It was not much, but it was new. Junwoo found his opening. He drove something into the commander's throat, and Vrek's eyes went wide with shock. The Kreth giant stumbled backward, clutching at the wound. He fell. The remaining raiders stared at their dead commander, then at the wounded human standing over his body. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Junwoo spoke, and his voice carried across the plaza. "Your commander is dead," he said. "Your ships are sabotaged, and reinforcements will arrive within hours." He swayed but did not fall. "You can surrender and live," he continued, "or you can keep fighting, and I will kill every one of you before they get here." He was bluffing. Seraphine could see. Could barely stand, much less fight six-armed. Krethbot. The raiders had watched their numbers drop from 53 to 7. They had spent 2 days being hunted by something that seemed invincible. They did not know he was bluffing. One by one, they dropped their weapons. Seraphine ran to the children and gathered them into her arms. They clung to her, crying with relief. When she looked up, Junwoo was still standing in the center of the plaza, watching the surrendered raiders. Then his legs gave out, and he collapsed. She reached him before he hit the ground. His eyes were closed, and his breathing was shallow. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Help is coming. Just stay with me." His hand found hers and squeezed weakly. "Did we save them?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "You saved everyone." He smiled, and his eyes drifted closed. The military arrived 12 hours later to find the colony intact, the raiders in custody, and a human diplomat bleeding in the medical center while his Volanti wife refused to leave his side. The story spread across both their civilizations within days. The falling star. They called him the man who held an entire colony against impossible odds. Politicians praised the strength of the Alliance. Military commanders studied his tactics. Journalists demanded interviews. Junwoo refused them all. 3 weeks later, when he had recovered enough to walk, he and Seraphine returned to their home in Harren's Rest. He went immediately to his garden, checking on the plants that had survived the battle. She watched him from the doorway. "We could request reassignment," she said. "After what happened, any posting in either civilization would accept us." Junwoo considered a damaged vine and began gently straightening its leaves. "Do you want to leave?" Seraphine looked out at the colony. Repairs were underway, and colonists moved through the streets with renewed purpose. Volanti and human worked side by side, their old tensions forgotten in the wake of shared survival. "No," she admitted. "This feels like home now." He smiled and held out his hand. She took it and joined him in the garden. "I have a question," she said. "Ask." "That night, before you went out to fight, you said you were buying us 3 days. Yes. Did you really believe you could survive that long?" Junwoo was quiet for a moment. "No," he finally said. "I thought I would die within the first night." "Then why did you do it?" He turned to face her, and his eyes held that familiar warmth she had come to treasure. "Because some things are worth dying for," he said. "And I had already found one of them." He reached up and touched her face. "Gentle as always, I married you for peace." he continued. But somewhere along the way, I found something more important. Seraphine leaned into his touch. So did I. She whispered. They stayed in the garden as the sun set over Haran's rest. Two people from different worlds who had found their place together. She had married him for Truce. She had watched him fight like a falling star, but in the end, what she had found was simpler and more precious than either. She had found a quiet man who grew gardens and remembered everyone's names. A man who carried thunder in his gentle hands. A man worth standing beside, no matter what came next, and that, she decided, was worth more than any treaty could promise.